Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're going to be digging into the whole Alien franchise the next few days, leading up to Alien Romulus to be come out here on the 16th. And everything about this franchise is amazing, but of course it all starts with the 1979 Alien movie from Sir Ridley Scott. And of course, we're going to be going into everything, the reason why this is such a classic, and in my opinion, a top 10 all-time sci-fi movie. We're going to be digging into every character and everything in between and why this is such a great movie. So let's do this.
Is this heaven? No. It's Iowa.
I think it's safe to say that this movie wasn't really the classic because of one person. It takes a lot of people to make this a classic, starting over with Dan O'Bannon. He's the one that came up with the idea, that he's the story. H.R. Geiger, he is the guy that came up with the concept, the artist, the design of the creature. And of course, Stan Winston, he actually made the practical effects. And you cannot forget about Sir Ridley Scott. He is the visual genius behind the camera. All four of those people, and then of course you got a fifth person, Roger Corman. He is your producer, and so that's a good 5 people right there that's gonna make a great movie. Because again, this one movie is just, it's not one person doing all of it. I think it's safe to say also that we come back to these alien movies because of this one movie that has everything we love in it. When it comes to those eggs, the mystery of what's inside, the facehuggers that come out, and we're like, what the hell's these facehuggers? And we all hate those spiders, man. Oh, it creeps me out. And of course, the xenomorphs. The xenomorphs is really the highlight of this alien movies, and that's why Prometheus really didn't get much attention, because the xenomorphs were really just not there. And this was way before CGI. So of course, you need that set design to look amazing, which it does. The practical effects are beyond amazing. They even won an Oscar award for it. I'm not surprised with that. But they use miniatures and also what they call matte painting. They put a painting in the foreground or the background. You kind of act around it. So all that stuff combining, and of course, camera tricks to make this sci-fi movie amazing. I love how this movie starts out. It's really creepy. The camera is slowly moving throughout the corridors, and it's starting to come alive by itself. The fact that the camera never stops is perfect genius idea, because when that camera never stops, us audience, we're never set on ease, because when the camera stops, then we can kind of relax. But if it's moving, we're always constantly looking at something new, and it just keeps you on the edge of the seat, and I thought that was brilliant. If I can just borrow you guys time for 20 seconds, this is not a sponsor. This is about children that need our help. These are children that have cancer, leukemia, all the bad stuff, and it's kill. I'm from Iowa. We have a children's hospital, and you watch any of the Iowa football games during the first quarter, we do the Iowa wave to the children in the hospital. They deserve all the stuff, and I just want to say, guys, in the description box below, I have a link for description where you can donate, and that's all I want to say, guys, because I absolutely love Iowa, and I love what they're doing with the Iowa children. So please, if you have money and you want to donate, go to the description box, give it to them. Do not give it to me. In my opinion, also, a great movie needs a great soundtrack. It needs a great score, great sound design, sound editing, however you want to look at it. And of course, we get Jerry Goldsmith for the soundtrack. And does that name sound familiar? Yeah, because he did Rambo. But really, the highlight of this movie, and I think in the most top 10, if not the top 5, maybe the top 3 greatest surprises of sci-fi or horror movies, is that chest burster scene. When that chest burster scene happens, still, I just watched the movie just the other day, probably for the 40th time, and the 40th time I'm still like, damn. And I'm looking at everyone's reaction, because in real life, the actors, they knew something was going to happen. They knew that chest burster was going to happen, but they didn't know how it was going to happen. So when that actually happened, that was their legit shock on their face in real life. And I would absolutely have that same look on my face if I was them. I love how this movie does really well when it comes to misdirection. It misleads us audience and the characters in the movie, because it starts off with showing Kane. Kane's the first one to get up. He's the first one kind of chatting about where are we, and he's the first one that wants to volunteer to go. He's the first one to get facehugger on. He's the first one to die. So it's really misleading, because you think he might be a lead character. And then of course Dallas, the captain of the ship, that was the biggest mislead, I think, in this whole movie, because he's the captain, he's the anchor of this, and he dies second one early. Okay, that was a twist and turn, but it kind of shows you the audience hey, anyone can die at any moment. And then Ripley was really she wasn't the main center at first. She was kind of there in the background, but then at the very end, she's the final girl, and that's kind of misleading too, because you never really think that's gonna happen. because really before this, there wasn't many women that were the final act, the final girl. That was really, you know, Halloween, which was a year before this. That's when that kind of started, but this movie was already made by then, so they didn't really take it from that. But you got like Texas Chainsaw Massacre that came out in 74. They had a final girl. And then Black Christmas, I think, what was that, 75 that came out? That had a final girl too, but this one really cemented, along with Halloween, those two within these 2 years. And then we had, you know, a Nightmare on Elm Street that came out in 1980. No, excuse me, that was Friday 13th that came out in 1980. A Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 1984. So from 78 to 84, that's really the gap of this whole woman being the final girl. And you can't forget about Ash. That motherfucker was so misleading, and the fact that a lot of us were surprised that he was an android. Yeah, that was just a nice little element on the side. But Ash, I want to talk about Ash for a second. He gets such small hints. When you go back and re-watch it, it's like this motherfucker knew exactly what was going on. I made a whole video about that theory, which I think he will make an appearance in Romulus. Go check that out. But he gets small hints. For example, when Ripley comes in to talk to him about the whole quarantine thing, he turns off the camera. And he even lets in Kane, because he's like, no, I know what's out there. I want him to come in. And really, the first time you see him happy when he's smiling is when, you know, Kane, Dallas, and Lambert, they're going to the, you know, ship where before Kane gets the facehugger on. He's all happy, la la la. When the facehugger comes off Kane and they go in to look for it, instead of going checking on Kane if he was okay, he goes checking around. He's like, where are you? Where's my baby? It's very obvious he knows what's going on. And there's a scene in the original cut, the theater cut, not the director's cut, the original cut. Dallas and Ripley talk about like how Ash replaced the original science officer 2 days before coming on Nostromo. So it was very misleading why. And then also the chest burster scene. When you really watch that chest burster scene, he is sitting as far away as possible from Kane, and he is directly on the other side of the table because he wanted good focus, kind of like me in this camera right now. That's kind of what he wanted. And while everyone's talking to Kane and blah, 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 he's over there just giving the nod. He's really like checking on him, like, when is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? And when he started acting up in that chest burster scene, everyone was trying to help Kane, but he was really not helping him. He was kind of like, I know what's going to happen. And of course, when the alien comes out, he's the one's like, don't kill, don't kill, don't kill. And really, if you watch a lot of the early scenes of, you know, Ash, he's always like in the corner of the camera. And I know that's supposed to be for a reason. I can't really figure out why, but I think it's just to throw us off. But there has to be a reason why he's in every corner of every screen. This movie is really the not the fourth one. This movie is really the first one that has a fourth and final act. And I call it the alien effect. I really do, because up to this point, there really wasn't a fourth and final. Even still today, there's really not many movies that do that. Because there's a clear ending, and that's usually how you end it. But in this case, nope. You thought it was good to go, but then Ripley and Alien have that final showdown. And of course, throughout this whole franchise, not every movie, but a good chunk of the movies, at least 50% of them, have this fourth and final act. And again, I call it the alien effect. There's a good mystery element to this movie. That's what I love about it. It's not just sci-fi and horror. It's definitely a mystery. Because, like, who's his mother? And why is the mother sending them to this ship? What's with this transmission beak? What's with this face hugger? It's so many mystery elements to the story. And that's what I like. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. Keeps you guessing. Keeps you, like... These characters in this movie, they're learning it as the same pace as you, audience, were watching this. Because when you're watching this for the first time, you're acting, you're saying the same questions as a lot of these characters, like Brett and Parker, like, why don't we freeze it? Why can't we get the fuck out of here? You as an artist, those are exactly the same questions you have, and I really love that. I think a lot of us people can really relate a lot to these characters, pretty much because they're an everyday person, just like us. They're an everyday person, they're blue-collar people, and they're getting screwed over by corporation. And James Cameron will pretty much take that and make, you know, The Abyss. And a lot, of course, other movies would take this element. But I think that's why us audience really care for these characters. Because like, hey, man, this average Joe is exactly me, average Joe. So I want this guy to win. I want this guy to not die. And it makes you care a lot for characters. And they had one of the great character, you know, development scenes in that dinner scene when they all, you know, the camera's spinning around. They're all having dinner. There's multiple chatting over everybody. You're trying to figure out who you want to listen to. In us audience, we can always pick one person out of this group to say, hey, that is me. That's most likely, if I was in this movie, that would be my character. This is what I would do. One of the scariest things of this movie is they really dig on the whole fear of the unknown. The fear comes from the unknown. And one scene really plays that out, and that's Dallas's death scene when he's crawling through the docks, and the fact that everyone knows that the alien is coming closer and closer to him, but nobody can see it. It's like Jaws. It's not what you see, it's what you don't see. It's the theater of the mind. Halloween plays that really, really well. They do that a lot. It's seeing the reaction of people and not seeing it itself can be a lot scarier. Even listening to something, not seeing it could be a lot scarier. And that's what Dallas is destined, because you can hear the beep, beep, beep. You know, the alien gets closer and closer. And it's just terrifying because you know it's coming. You can't see it. And they play that so well. I think that is exactly why that scene is, in my opinion, is the scariest scene in this movie. And also, this movie is very simple. It's very easy to follow. You got one group going to one place trying to figure out what's going on. And then they realize there's one creature and they're trying to survive. So you have one creature trying to survive, you know, with a group of people trying to kill it. Very simple. And the fact that this movie, the tension, the build up, it's amazing because it starts out, you know, with the facehugger thinking that is the alien, but then the facehugger dies. So you're like, oh, okay, alien's dead. No big deal. We're all good to go. Let's have one more dinner before we go back to bed. And then boom, chest burster scene. Alien comes out and it's just a little tiny little guy. So they're like, all right, let's just go catch it, guys. Let's just go get a net, blah, blah, blah. That whole scene where they're trying to come up with an idea of how to catch it is very casual. They're all not worried about it. No one's looking over their shoulder. No one's looking up. They're all like, yeah, let's go catch this little thing, you know? And then even like when that whole jump scare with the cat, even though that's like more of a gimmick now these days, but before it was not. But the fact that when, you know, Parker and Ripley like, hey, Brett, you know, go get the cat by yourself. No big deal. It's just a little alien. You're not going to worry about it. But if they knew what the alien was then, they wouldn't just let him go off. So throughout this movie, it slowly builds like, okay, this alien, this threat is getting bigger and bigger throughout the movie. And what makes this movie amazing is the cast. The casting is hands down something where you see these people, you think alien, 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 alien. And of course the characters, you know, with Dallas, he's your captain, he's your leader, and he dies early. Kane, we see a lot of him at first, he dies early. Ripley, she's like that surprise final girl. Brett and Parker, they're like your bromance, that comedy relief. They're all about the money. And Lambert, she's that one person that us audience, we're always gonna be on her side because she's like, let's just get out of here. Who cares? Let's just go, go, go. And a lot of us like, that's what I would do too. And of course you have Ash, pretty much is the person that knows it all. There's really a lot of what would you do moments throughout this movie. For example, what would you do if you woke up and you hear a transmission on a different planet? Would you go down and investigate it? Or would you just hop back, you know, in your hyper chambers and go to sleep? Or would you let Kane inside? Would you let him out there to die? Would you take the facehugger off? Would you leave the facehugger on? Would you want to escape, or you want to go fight the thing? How would you even kill it? You know, would you blow up the ship at the end or not? There's a lot of questions of what we do. Even Ash even said it himself directly. What would you do, Ripley? Would you leave him out there or not? We also cannot forget that this movie has the greatest tagline of all time. And in space, no one can hear you scream. I mean, like, that in Jaws 2, because Jaws 2 was, you know, when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. Like, there's no other two taglines in the history of movies that stands out besides those two. I really just absolutely love these taglines. And it's simple, and it's kind of scary when you think about it too. Another thing I love about this movie is the camera. Ridley Scott, he did pretty much 80% of this movie, like, behind the lens. He's very amazing when it comes to the camera. The visual genius of storytelling with the camera. And they use the Panaglide. The Panaglide is when it's like not on a dolly, not on a track, it's on a person. The person's walking and moving. Halloween really blew up that with the Panaglide, because before that it was really not there, but Halloween really made it known because that opening scene, that was all Panaglide. And pretty much throughout the movie is, but this, it's really hard to have, you know, a dolly in the set design. So you need that Panaglide. And it shows more of a human feel to it instead of like a robot feel. One of these scenes when Brett gets killed is one of those scenes where it's like, us audience is like, as soon as that cat goes into that door, we're like, dude, don't go in there, you're gonna die. And sure enough, as soon as he starts walking in there, we're like, okay, he's gonna die, we all know it, but when? And that's what the tension comes from, because the tension comes from, we know it's gonna happen, but when is it gonna happen? And it took a good minute. And of course, the whole rain kind of throws you off for a second, and that's what these movies are supposed to do. It's kind of supposed to throw in a few things to kind of make you unease, unsettle, like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, what else is gonna happen? You know, like It Chapter 1, Chapter 2, the remakes, they did a really good job with that stuff. But yeah, that rain part really throws you off the last second, then boom, there goes Brett. And you really don't see, you see the reaction from the cat's face, which is